Hi, welcome to the show. I'm so thrilled to announce the show is now called Unplugged with Eraldo and Daryn. Yes, that's right. National TV personality and Andy Cohen's chief of staff is now officially the co-host of the show.
Yeah.
Plus, there is more. We want to welcome our viewers in the San Francisco Bay Area, as the show is now airing in both Philadelphia and San Francisco. So it is great to be coast to coast, Daryn. It is
Finally, man. We span both coasts. Yeah, we do both coasts, exactly. I'm excited. I'm so thrilled to be here with you.
Oh, no, it's an honor to have you. And, let's talk about something that it's been bugging me lately because, the social media that's going on these days. What is your thought?
You're such a dad, Eraldo. I love it. These social media things.
Social media thing. What's going on, you know?
Listen, I mean, I grew up in a generation, we didn't have cell phones in our hands when we were very, very young. So I'm sort of the last, what feels like, of the generation who knows what it's like to not have social media.
Right.
But what I find now is that everyone is so siphoned in their opinions.
Okay.
And I feel like it's starting to separate us a little bit. You know, you only read the news publications or the people on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram that you already confirm your views.
Right.
So a lot of people aren't actually gaining further knowledge and understanding the opposition, and I feel like that's what's causing a lot of tension between a lot of people.
I agree. Listen, I have kids myself. They're growing up. They're into social media a lot, and sometimes they're just dependent on Twitter, just dependent on Instagram.
Exactly.
You know, and I'm like, guys, you need to broaden your, your opinion. You need to do some research because you can't just base it on one thing. That's just somebody's opinion, you know. And
listen, I mean, social media gives people a voice that didn't have one, right? And so I don't want to go negative on social media because I do think having the news right there every minute makes it so much better.
Correct. Yes.
But at the same time, it's also kind of hard to know what you should listen to and what not. So it's kind of a catch-22 a little bit. Yeah.
Well, anyway, all right, let's go to our first guest. She is Stephanie Bennett. She is author of the book Johnny B. Bad, the amazing behind-the-scenes story of the making of Chuck Berry, Hail, Hail, Rock and Roll, and the woman who lived through it.
In 1987, the Taylor Hackford documentary, Hail, Hail, Rock and Roll, celebrated the genius of music legend Chuck Berry and his relationship with Rolling Stone Keith Richards. Now, 32 years after its release comes the story of the making of the movie, and it's not a pretty picture. Stephanie Bennett knows firsthand. Thank you so much for being here, Stephanie.
How are you?
Thank you for having me.
Congrats on the book.
Yes.
There's so much to go through. What sparked you to write the book?
2 years ago yesterday, Chuck died.
Yes.
And the phone rang off the hook. People were saying, and people said to me, how do you feel? I said, wow, I feel like, we made a great film, didn't we? And they said, yeah, but do you remember this? Do you remember that? And so I thought, maybe there's a book here. And I wrote a proposal, and, we interviewed 15 people. Taylor Hackford, Helen Mirren was there through the whole thing. Wow. Keith Richards. So just interviewing these people and their stories. It's just amazing that in one film so much happened over really a 2-year period.
For our viewers, tell us a little bit about Chuck Berry. What was he like? What was he? Tell us about the viewers a little bit.
Pros and the cons.
Pros and the cons about working with Chuck Berry.
Well, the pros are that he made great music and and without him there would be no Beatles or Stones.
Correct.
Amen.
Yes.
And Roll Over Beethoven is really what launched both the Beatles and the Stones.
And the Stones, correct. Yeah.
And I think that was always, stuck in his gut. I think it was, he never got the adulation that they did.
Right.
He got the money, but not the adulation.
Right.
And I think for me, it was doing the film was a legend. And, Taylor Hackford agreed to do it. It was a big feature film.
Right.
Universal agreed to make it. So here we are. We think we're going to make a great film about Chuck Berry. And he's going to love it, right? And we're going to surround him by all these people who love him. Get a great musical director, Keith Richards, who wanted to pay his dues, he said. And Chuck could not care less. He could not care. I would say to him all the time, but Chuck, Eric Clapton, Linda Ronstadt,
come on,
Etta James. And he'd be like, give me another 25,000 if you want me to do this.
Wow.
And so it was all about the money. Every day before we started shooting a scene, he would call up. Once he called a phone box on the corner of one of the worst parts of St. Louis. This phone kept ringing. And finally, Taylor Hackford said to someone, go pick up that phone.
Right.
And they picked it up and said, it's for you, Taylor. And so he says to Taylor, Taylor, I just want you to know, everything's good between you and me. But I need to speak to the producer. And so I get on the phone and I'm like,
oh no.
But Chuck, we have a deal. No, we don't have a deal to do this. And it was to shoot at the Cosmo Club, which is where he originally started.
He originally started, right?
So my lawyer and I would trot out to his home and renegotiate. Until one day Universal said, you know what, let him sit down and write the contract.
Right.
And then, you know...
Then you can agree to it or not.
Right. And then we can maybe sue him for duress at the end of the
Smart.
show. You know?
That's right.
And he would say things like, well, you know, Stephanie, you could make things easier. You know that. And the funny thing was, at the beginning, he said, I'm so glad you're doing this film because women have been prejudiced against. They've had a hard time making it in the world. So I'm really glad my producer's a woman, right?
Right.
But he obviously thought I was part of the deal, which, you know, and then it got around to, well,
you mean part of the deal with the,
yeah. It's like,
more, you're giving yourself a little bit more, right?
Exactly. So don't you come with the deal? I mean, I thought that was part of the deal.
What was the relationship like between Chuck and Keith Richards?
It was interesting because Keith had to put up with a lot. There's a famous scene where they do "Oh Carol," and Chuck gets up there, and he's being filmed, and he's got the band there, Johnny Johnson, Chuck Leavell from the Stones, and he's teaching Keith to play "Oh Carol," and he's like, "Got to get it right, Keith."
Wow.
You know, and Keith, it's probably the most watched part of the film on YouTube, is Keith is just glaring, and we're like, is Keith going to walk out? Is he going to walk away from this? Is he going to take it? And he took it. And even the night of the concert, he said, we're going to switch keys.
Right.
And Keith said, no, Chuck, we're not. And I mean, it was always that control thing. He thought he was in control.
Wow.
And I think, as Keith said, it was like he opened the doors, Chuck, to us, and the whole world came in. And he couldn't control it.
I want to get the book in, Stephanie.
Yeah,
so
come
hold
on,
the book
Stephanie.
for us real quick.
But anyway, there are many, many stories. There's a story of how he drove us into a prison.
Right.
And we got attacked.
Yeah, so, oh my God.
I got to get this book.
We got to get the book of that.
Now. Wow, there's
Listen,
so much
congratulations
to go
on the
Thank
book.
you.
All the best to you. Thanks for being here, Stephanie. And I
really
wish we could stay
appreciate
here all
it.
day and talk about it, but thank you for
Okay,
being here.
buy the book.
Buy the book, that's
rock
right.
and roll. Still to come, we're going to give you some easy ways to eat healthy. And yes, we mean easy. Just a few simple steps, and you can have delicious meals for the entire family.
And stay with us. We'll be right back with physician assistant Jessica DeLuise to talk healthy meal planning.